The Uncharted Territories is a podcast about seeing the unseen in the world of matter. Join me, Shara Prophet, the Mind Magic Coach, and my partner, astrologer Scott Tajirian, as we take an esoteric look this season into the life, death, and afterlife of a variety of celebrities and public figures who lost their lives prematurely or unexpectedly.
Welcome back, Shara.
Hey,
so
Scott.
Excited to see you.
Yes.
And excited to get into, I guess we can call this part 2 of the Kennedys, because we're going to be looking into Bobby Kennedy, Robert F. Kennedy, Robert Fitzgerald Kennedy, RFK, the brother of Jack John Fitzgerald Kennedy, which we touched on in the first episode. So it's going to be fun to look at the younger brother, learn more about his life, his death, and his afterlife.
Yes.
So in the last episode, Shara, we talked about your process, so I don't think we need to get too deep into that, but why don't you just pick us up? How did you come about Bobby Kennedy?
Well, the initial contact with Bobby was a lot of darkness. So when he came in with this heaviness, this sadness. There were flames kind of like popping up around his feet.
And that's in big contrast to the energy with Jack.
Yeah, Jack came in cool, calm, collected, even though he had that undertone of regret, a little bit of darkness too. But he was more at peace with his situation, so to speak. Bobby, on the other hand, came in kind of like holding his head down and very sad. And there was also some dark entities lingering around him.
What does that mean?
So basically, entities or energies can be demons, jinn, and it doesn't mean that they're evil. Okay. Let's just clear that up. You know, doesn't necessarily make them evil. They just carry the energy of what we consider to be darkness. Okay. It's the shadow self. Okay. Because we all have a shadow.
Yep.
And we need that. It's important for us to have it in order for us to come into full realization of who we are, right? So these entities were lingering around him. One of them has orange hair with a blue body. The other one was red with devil's horns. So he kind of looked like your typical depiction of what the devil looks like or what Satan looks like. Okay?
So these two entities are sitting right by him.
They're
basically.
right around him.
Right around
they
him.
Were right around him. And they kind of looked cartoonish.
Yes.
You know, kind of like the genies, if you remember like the old school Disney cartoons, like that, you know.
Yes.
And they are jinn.
Explain that.
So jinn, they're pretty much, they can take the form of anything, honestly. They hold the energy of a smokeless fire, okay? So they have the ability to shape shift into pretty much anything, you know? And they are considered to be demons, for lack of a better term, okay?
So jinn is like a dark energy, demon energy?
Yes.
That's formless, that can possess people? Is that what you're saying?
I mean, any entity can possess. A spirit can possess. A person from the other side can come in and possess if you allow them to. Right?
Okay.
So it's not so much that they're like dangerous and can take you over and things like that. A lot of what those energies are allowed to do is just that. Whatever we allow them to do, whatever we give them permission to do is what they will be able to do.
That's so interesting because I feel like there's this misconception that they can just take you over, but it's really you're allowing them to. You're susceptible to it in some way, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
If you are not protecting yourself energetically, if you don't fully understand about the spirit world and how to navigate through it, then you can absolutely be taken over, eaten alive.
Wow.
Okay. But that's with anybody. Even a living person can take full advantage of you if you are not protecting yourself, if you are not self-aware, and if you are a lost person, if you allow yourself to be around a particular person that is a narcissist.
Yes.
And you don't know how to deal with that energy because you haven't done your own healing and your own protection, then you can be taken advantage of. So it's the same thing with the spirit realm as well. There's no difference. So once you start to look at it from that perspective, it takes all of the charge out of, oh, it's evil and it's dangerous. And we have to be able to look at it from all angles in order to fully understand it.
Absolutely.
So I don't take these energies as evil at all. These were a representation of where he is emotionally and mentally right now.
Okay.
Well, not right now, but at that time when I tapped in.
Right. Not a good place.
He was not in a good place. So he looked very sad, very distraught, very heavy, very scared. He was sitting at a table with his hand on his head, holding his head down. And
sounds like a woe is me.
Yeah, very
sort of.
somber, quiet, sulking. And he kept saying, I deserve this.
Ooh,
I deserve this.
Ouch.
I deserve to be here in hell. Mm-hmm. And this is one of his own making. Mm-hmm. Okay, so this is not like a actual place.
A punishment.
Not a punishment at all. It's what he thinks he deserves. Mm-hmm. And I asked him, well, why are you feeling like this? Because your brother came in quite light.
And what did he say when you said that to him?
Well, he said, for all of the things that I've done wrong, I've done a lot of stuff wrong. I messed up big time. And he said, I killed my brother.
Wow.
And I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah, so he doesn't think that, right?
Yeah. Well, he said, I didn't pull the trigger, but I'm the reason the trigger was pulled. So, of course, at this point, my whole mind is blown. Like, what the hell? Like,
right.
What?
Wow.
Conspiracy number 18.
Yeah.
So what I told him was, Jack came in quite light. He doesn't have any feelings towards you at all about that. But he says that, and I could see this. He said, well, Jack, he's always played nonchalant. He has this nonchalant attitude about things that he can't control. And we discussed that in the previous episode. He just easily accepts things and it's not an act, but this is just his personality. But I let him know, I said, well, your brother doesn't believe that you're responsible, but Bobby wasn't listening. He was just fixated on, I did this. Mm-hmm. It's my fault.
Right. Didn't matter that you told him that his brother said, no, this is not your fault. He's still blaming himself.
Mm-hmm. So that was a lot of heaviness.
Obviously,
to just be like, okay, this is how we're starting this off. Great. So before we get into like the meat of this, let's talk a little bit about his childhood, unless you want to tap into what I just said really quickly.
Well, do you want to talk about the word that describes his life?
Oh, the theme of his life. Yes.
Validation.
Yes. So let's talk about Bobby's theme. The theme of his life was validation. And what does that mean? That means that all of his life, he was kind of fighting for a position, so to speak, with his parents. And there's a lot of competition in the family with that type of family. Somebody is always being compared to someone else. So he said that he has been fighting for validation, not only while he was here alive in the physical realm, but he still finds himself trying to do that, even on the other side.
Yeah, well, it sounds like it, because he's putting a lot of pressure on himself, and he's not willing to give himself credit except for the death of his brother.
Exactly. So that's a heavy crown to wear.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Wanting to receive that validation from parents, probably also from the public as well. There was a lot of feeling like I needed to be seen. I just wanted to be seen and wanted to be heard, but having to almost stand in the shadow.
Yes.
Which makes sense with all of these entities around, all of this darkness around him. It's in the shadows.
Well, you bring up the darkness, you bring up the entities, you bring up the heaviness. I mean, when I'm looking at his astrological code, it's so fascinating to me because I love looking at the astrological codes of family members because you start to see how they relate to one another. So JFK, he had 5 planets in the 8th house, which is the house of death, which is associated with the 8th sign, which is Scorpio. Younger brother, Bobby, was a Scorpio. His sun, his Saturn, and his Mars. Saturn is the god of wealth and time, the planet of restriction, limitation, hard work, authority, and Mars, the god of war, the planet of action, aggression, and conflict. those two planets, along with the sun, which is the giver of light, life, and vitality, were all in Scorpio when Bobby was born. And so Scorpio is the deepest, darkest sign. It's the sign that is associated with magic. It is the sign that is associated with secrets and the shadow side.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the pressure I see, it's also interesting because their astrological codes are almost inverted in a sense, where the highest point in the sky when JFK was born was in Cancer. Directly opposite that is Capricorn.
Mm-hmm.
The highest point in Bobby's astrological code when he was born was Capricorn, which is opposite Cancer. So
interesting.
There is this sort of authority in Bobby's life, this pressure. I believe there's pressure from the mother because the moon, which represents the mother when Bobby was born, was in Capricorn. So just as JFK, his moon was in Virgo, which is the perfectionist, emotionally fulfilled by being perfect. That's a lot of pressure.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like there's even more pressure for the people out there that are Capricorn moon. Bobby was a Capricorn moon. That means that he was emotionally fulfilled by achievement, by being validated. You made it to the top of the mountain. You achieved what you set out to achieve.
Mm-hmm.
And there never seems to be being at the peak.
Yeah.
There's always like another ledge to get to.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's always like this being hard on yourself because you haven't ascended to the top spot, even if you have in some ways. I mean, he had a very accomplished life, but still feeling that immense pressure to ascend.
Yeah, big time. I mean, that makes perfect sense with everything that I was picking up with him. And when you said that him having that pressure from the parents is big time, because he said that the parents were very hands off, but they were also quite strict and they held those high expectations.
Mm-hmm.
And as a kid, and this ties into that validation, as a kid, he felt ignored a lot. He said that I always felt like I had to prove myself to my parents.
Mm-hmm.
And I just wanted some validation from them, even beyond the grave.
Wow.
And he said, I need to know that I was making them proud. I felt like outdoing Jack or competing with him would be the ultimate show of success.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so this is where that competition came in, but it wasn't a malicious type of energy. I didn't pick up on that at all.
No. It's fascinating to me because, again, like how John F. Kennedy's fourth house, the fourth and 10th house, this is the mother-father energy. But JFK's 10th house was in Cancer.
Mm-hmm.
His fourth house was in Capricorn. And RFK's 10th house was in Capricorn. His fourth house was in Cancer.
Oh, wow.
So the parents are reflecting within each individual, but maybe in a flipped way. Maybe one thought the mother was more strict. The other thought the father was more strict. There's a lot of similarity there.
Yeah. So, okay, that makes a lot of sense because if we remember in the previous episode, Jack said mom was strict, dad was absentee, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that flip here with Bobby, he recalls a time when he was about 10 years old or so. He said he had one of those horses on a stick,
Right, sure. You pretend like you're riding a horse. It's basically like a broomstick with the horse's head on one end. Yeah.
Yes. So he said he was playing with one of those one day and he trampled a rose garden or a rose bush around the house. And he said that he was resting and playing by a big tree in the backyard. And then he said that his father, picked up the horse stick and started beating his legs.
Oh, God.
So the stick, he said, was a very thick stick. If you've ever seen one of these things, the stick is pretty thick.
It's not like plastic.
It is not plastic. It is heavy
wood.
and
solid wood.
And he said the stick was thick like an old school janitor's mop handle. And I remember those solid wood mop handles. I mean, of course, I'm not as old as they are, but you know.
You weren't born in 1925?
I was not. But those broomsticks, those mop handles, they made their way over to my generation.
Oh yeah, it's not like they're getting new ones every year. You're getting beat by the same ones that your grandparents were getting beat by.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. So I think he made that association because he knew that I would
understand him.
What he meant by that. And so he could see the pain in his father's eyes from trampling over the rose bush, but he wasn't sure if it was from the memory of his father's mother or that he felt bad actually for hitting Bobby, or both. So he said at that moment, Bobby knew he had to redeem himself and has been trying to ever since.
Wow.
Because he felt like he really hurt his father by trampling over those rose bushes. Now, again, I must say this is for entertainment purposes only. This is my interpretation of the energy as it comes in. I am not saying that this actually happened. This is allegedly, for anybody out there that is familiar with the family or knows the family well. I don't do a whole ton of research. I just read the energy. So that's what came through. That's what I saw. And that's what I'm reporting on.
I love it. Yeah, totally.
But this is reflective of what you mean by that flip-flop, you know?
Yep, because Jack was like, the mom was tougher.
Yeah.
But Bobby was saying, Dad.
Exactly. So let's talk a little bit about Bobby's life now.
Okay, before we get there, I just want to point out one other piece that I didn't mention earlier. Saturn, the god of wealth and time, which I did mention how it's in Scorpio, but it's in direct alignment with Bobby's midheaven, which is the highest point in the sky. Saturn is the planetary ruler of the midheaven, of the 10th house. So when Saturn is in alignment with the midheaven, that creates an individual who is very driven to achieve and to accomplish a lot in life. And interestingly enough, JFK, his Saturn was in the 10th house. Bobby's wasn't in the 10th house, but it was in alignment with the 10th house line. So there's a lot of power in both of their astrological codes to achieve, to climb to the top of the mountain.
Wow.
Really driven.
Very much so.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, with the program that they were both running on, that was instilled in them as children, plus whatever you want to call it. If you want to say that it was abuse, okay. They don't really see it as abuse, to be honest with you.
Right. They love their parents.
They love their parents. And what they see it as is, hey, they were grooming us.
Yes.
Making us stronger.
And one thing I'll also say about that beating, if it happened or not, or if he was abused, even though he wouldn't say that he would be, because that's just, you know, a lot of how, I guess, families operated back then.
Yeah.
But Bobby's wound, Chiron, which represents the wound that occurs to the eternal soul in the world of matter, and the ancient wisdom that is achieved through unlocking that wound, was in Aries in the 12th house. Aries is confidence. So he had a wound to his self-confidence and it was deep within his unconscious. So it's almost something that maybe he wasn't even aware of, but that's something that could come about through being abused at a young age, hurting the confidence of a child, and then that getting shoved under the rug in the psychological realm, in the subconscious. Yes.
Oh, absolutely.
Yes.
And that child could work tirelessly throughout their entire lives to redeem themselves, just trying to gain that confidence back and not really understanding that that's what they're trying to do.
Right. Right.
It's crazy how that works.
Wild.
Yes, indeed. So with that being said, I want to talk about his health because that's a direct tie-in to what you just said.
Okay.
So I picked up on high cholesterol. Okay. Bobby loved steaks. He liked bacon. Just a man after my own heart. So when we talk about high cholesterol, let's talk about the metaphysical or spiritual meaning. It means generational self-anger.
Wow.
Okay. So people who have high cholesterol, these people are very angry with themselves and they tend to do self-mutilation because of that hatred and that anger and that fear.
Okay. When you're talking about cholesterol, I'm thinking about the heart. Isn't that something that's directly affected by cholesterol?
Oh, yeah.
And then when I'm thinking self-hatred, there's something going on with the heart there. And so it's interesting that you say that, because Bobby's Chiron, the wound, is in direct alignment with his Neptune, which is the planet that represents the unconscious. So he has a wound in his unconscious, and the Neptune is in Leo, in the 5th house. The 5th house is associated with the 5th sign, which is Leo. And Leo is the sign that rules the heart. It's the lion. Think of Wizard of Oz. The lion's looking for its heart. So he has a wound in direct relation to his unconscious that's affecting his heart.
Big time.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. So definitely some heart issues, some heartbreak.
Heartbreak. Yeah. Absolutely.
Heartbreak.
Yes.
And heartburn and cholesterol, all of that stuff, right?
Yes.
And so this also triggered an eating disorder. So I don't know if many people know this about him, that there was a bit of an eating disorder there. So he said that he would eat too much until he had to vomit, only during stressful periods.
Okay. That, I can reflect that too.
Okay.
That's the Mars, the god of war, the planet of action, aggression, and conflict, is in his 6th house. That's associated with the 6th sign, which is Virgo, which rules the intestines. So eating a lot, getting very aggressive with the eating, perhaps, because the god of war in the house that represents the intestines.
Yeah. And then trying to correct it or perfect
by
it
throwing up.
By throwing up.
Yes.
Would that be representative
That's
of
aggressive.
The Virgo energy?
Sure. Okay. Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. But I also think with, yes, exactly. But I also think of like just Mars, like that's an aggressive thing to do, to vomit.
Yeah.
It's not a peaceful act.
It is not. It's very violent, actually. Yes. I hate throwing up.
And it's also in opposition to his ascendant, which is the face, the body, the personality, the essence of the soul.
Yeah.
So throwing up, the 1st house rules the head. So it goes from the intestines out the head, vomiting. Yes.
And remember, we talked about in the previous episode about the head being the crying region, right?
Yes.
Where you're holding a lot of pressure, having to make decisions, carrying the weight of the world on the shoulders and the head. So all of this is totally tying into those internal wounds really just showing up in the body.
That's what happens.
Yep.
If you're not living the life that you're meant to be living, it will show up in a physical form.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely it will. I mean, I remember when I was trying to figure out why I was gaining so much weight. And I would do all these crazy diets and all of this stuff, cleanses and exercising like a crazy person. And it wasn't until I started doing some inner work and I realized that I didn't feel safe.
Wow.
I didn't feel safe, so I was padding my body to make sure I was safe.
Yep. That makes sense.
So, and once I figured that out and I started working on the internal safety that was linked to traumas from my childhood, that's when I started having more control over my body weight.
Wow.
And my overall health improved. I say that so that the people who are listening can take it seriously. Medications and diets and things like that, they help, but you really want to start looking at the deeper core root issue.
They mask the issue.
Exactly.
And so you can mask it and maybe it solves one problem, but then it creates 4 or 5 other physical problems.
Absolutely. And it's a signal from your body telling you something's out of balance.
Help.
Here. We need help.
Yes.
Help. Let her know what's going on. Ring the alarm.
Yes.
And the alarm comes in the form of weight gain, of high cholesterol, kidney problems, heart issues, eating disorders, all of this stuff. So very, very important to look out for that stuff. So he also talks about his relationship with food. And when we talk about food, guess what food is related to? The relationship with the mother.
Oh, well, yeah. Okay. That makes total sense. That makes total sense. Wow.
Right? Comfort, nurturing.
Yes.
Okay. So bulimia is a compulsive need to eat. It's triggered by needing the attention and the affection from the mother. Yet received anxiety instead, abandonment, and insecurity. Okay.
Yes.
So that is something to also take a look at. If anybody is dealing with those types of issues, you might want to reflect a little bit. Mm-hmm.
Yes. And the moon, which represents the mother, is the planetary ruler of Cancer, which rules the breasts and also the stomach. So yeah, food.
Yes.
Right. And his moon is in the very rigid Capricorn.
Interesting.
Yes.
And when I think of the breast, I do think of the mother. I think of
feeding.
The nurturing and the feeding. And if he did not receive that, when mom was very strict and hands off, right?
That might create compulsive eating.
Absolutely. And create anxiety and that feeling of abandonment and insecurity linked to the validation, the need to be validated.
Right.
Which was his lifelong theme. Man.
Heavy stuff.
It is. Man, bless their little hearts for leading this country. You know what I mean? Like, wow. With all of that going on.
It's like our leaders don't have it all figured out.
No, I don't. I hope nobody on this planet thinks that.
Yeah, exactly.
I hope by now we've seen
we recognize they're humans.
Evidence that they're just human beings trying to figure it out as we all are, right?
Absolutely.
So I asked him about a happy memory because I just wanted to kind of lighten it up a little bit. Like, goodness gracious. So I said, tell me something that made you happy. Like, what was the happiest moment of your life? And he said that it was when all of his children were born. They had a lot of them.
Oh, yeah.
But especially his firstborn. It was his first child that made him feel the happiest. And he said, surprisingly, I never got tired of having children.
That's actually not surprising when you look at his astrological code.
Tell us more.
Yes, because the North Node symbolizes the path that your soul wants to take. The North Node is always 180 degrees away from the South Node. The South Node represents the dragon's tail, the valley. It is the karma that you experienced in your past lives and the gifts that you received through the traits that you cultivated in your past lives that you've brought into this life. But the more that you're spending your energy in your South Node, even though that is what is easiest for you, it's unfulfilling. It causes you to feel empty.
Okay.
Because the planets are guiding you towards your North Node. That's the dragon's head, the hill, the karma that you're meant to experience in this life, the gifts that you're meant to receive through the traits that you're meant to cultivate in this life. It might be more challenging to work your energy towards the North Node, but when you do, your soul feels at peace. And the reason why it's not surprising that Bobby felt peaceful when he had his first child and never got tired of having all the children that he had, and he had like way over 10, is because his North Node was in the 4th house, which is associated with the 4th sign, which is Cancer, and his North Node was also in Cancer. And Cancer is the mother, the nurturer, being the one who nurtures others. So he was here not to serve society, not to be the leader of the free world, but he was actually here to be a loving father.
Yeah.
He had done all that in his past lives. He had been the leader, been to the top of the mountain, but it's like we talked about in Jack's episode, the conditioning that he was raised under. And when you look at his astrological code, there's so much energy in Capricorn. His Venus is in Capricorn, his moon is in Capricorn, his Jupiter is in Capricorn. So this creates a lot of challenge for getting away from that South Node energy because he has all that planetary pull with the South Node. So it can be confusing because it's like, okay, well, this feels good. It seems right. But then there's something inside of you that innately says, no, wait, I don't know. Maybe it's not right. And then you do something that puts you in alignment with your North Node, like for Bobby, having a child, and all of a sudden everything in life makes sense. And so this is what's really heartbreaking to me about his astrological code because he had so many children. And I just, my wish for him, if you could redo it, is that he would just not be a politician and just be a dad.
Yeah. Just focus on what
the
was
family.
Really the core desire of his heart.
Yes.
Yeah. And when I think about the two of them, they're like these tender little souls that came here to have a different purpose, not to say that what they did was not a part of the mission.
Right.
Not discounting that, but there was this path that they could have taken because we have choice, right? We have free will. There was this path that they both could have taken that would have led them to a much happier existence.
Well, with JFK, I feel like he was living more in his North Node's purpose. His North Node was actually in Capricorn, which is where Bobby's South Node was.
Interesting.
So it's kind of like Bobby saw Jack and was like, okay, that's what I'm supposed to be doing. But really, Jack was doing what he was supposed to do. But what Bobby was supposed to do was the opposite.
Yeah.
I can understand why JFK would have wanted to be a musician in entertainment in some way, but the North Node in the third house is the house of communication, but being in Capricorn is achievement. So that could resonate with doing something different than being a politician. But being a politician is still in alignment with the North Node in Capricorn in the third house. But that doesn't mean that that's what he had to do.
Right.
And if he's saying that there's something else that he wanted to do, and I can see that, then that's what he should have done, but he didn't do. But Bobby is just so off base.
Way off.
Way off.
I mean, because of the competition and the validation, it was just pushing him way in the other direction.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. And I feel like in Jack's case, if he was given the space to at least express himself musically or through the arts, he could have still been a politician that played the piano, that sang every now and again. And how awesome would that have been? I mean, you think the women were dropping their pants? Then, wow. I mean, oh my gosh, right?
Totally.
So, yeah, it's interesting how it all works out.
Yes.
So he also said that having all of these children, he said it filled him up and it brought him great joy. But he also thinks that this is why his wife kept having the kids. Yeah,
because it kept him close.
It kept him close. And it wasn't necessarily because she really wanted all of these children, because I don't think she wanted all of them. But she kind of used them as a way to give him what he loved, right? And he says, because she loved me and she loved our life, that she kept having kids because she knew that brought him joy.
Yes.
Wow. I don't think I will ever love a man that much.
To be pregnant 14 times or however many?
Not even once. I'm good. I have a cat.
There you go.
Wow, that's some deep love right there.
Yes.
Whew.
Well, there's a lot of intensity to his relationship energy because his Venus, which is the planet of relationships, is directly opposite Pluto, which is the planet of transformation. So it's funny when I think of however many times she was pregnant, it was just transforming their relationship over and over and over and over again. Pluto is also the planet that represents the will, has a very strong will. People always ask me, well, is Pluto actually a planet? Well, whether it is or isn't, doesn't really matter. It's there, and it has an extreme pull from where it is. And so it's the planet of will, and so it means that he had a very intense relationship with his wife that was very transformative as well.
Yeah. And that makes a lot of sense. He says, I was and I'm still deeply in love with Ethel, with my wife. But I could never keep it in my pants.
Well, I mean,
keep it in my pants.
Yes. I mean,
oh my goodness.
Again, it's like he's at Scorpio, which is one of the signs that represents sex. It's more of like the spiritual act that occurs during sex. And so, there could be, because of that, just wanting to bond with so many different people.
Yeah. And also what they saw happening at home as
Right.
kids.
Exactly.
This is the behavior that was learned, you know?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, man.
And that could also be Pluto opposite Venus, where he was just going through woman after woman after woman, having that experience, learning something new. His Venus is in the 9th house, which is the house of philosophy. So learning, expanding the mind through different encounters with the feminine.
Yeah, he says, I love women too much.
Well, again, Pluto, powerful, in alignment with Venus. It's a very intense connection to the feminine energy.
Yeah.
Very intense connection.
So with that, I had to ask about the rumors of him sleeping with his brother's wife.
Oh boy.
Jackie O. Had to. So he says oh gosh. So he said we slipped up a couple of times out of grief.
Right.
Out of grief.
Yes.
But he loved her. He said, I loved her too.
Absolutely.
He had very, very strong feelings for Jackie. But if that was more so out of grief for, losing his brother and things like that.
Absolutely. Well,
that
sex is healing.
It is.
It's healing. It's not, it might be this taboo thing that is done behind closed doors, but it's incredibly powerful and it's incredibly healing to the soul. And, there's a lot of commonality between Bobby's chart and Jack's chart, where you just between their two codes, where just a lot of planets are lining up at similar numbers. And so I look at it as kind of like a puzzle. And if Jack has 5 planets that are all at the same degree as Bobby's planets, then that's going to fit into Jackie's astrological code in a familiar way.
Interesting. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And probably that was like the closest she could get to him.
Exactly. And it's incredible trauma. Yeah.
Vice versa.
Totally.
Yeah.
Jack died 2 days after Bobby's birthday.
Yeah.
That's just horrific.
That's a lot to deal with.
Yes.
Yeah.
Bobby was born November 20th and Jack was assassinated on November 22nd. So the sun was 1 degree away from where it was when Bobby was born.
That's heavy.
Yes.
Yes, indeed. So speaking of heavy, we got to get heavy again.
Yep, let's do it.
They're heavy, y'all. What can we say?
Yes.
They're heavy.
Yep.
Okay, so let's circle back to these jinn
we talked about,
right?
The jinn, the creatures that don't hold physical form, but they can. They can.
Yes, they can. Yes, they can.
And what do they do?
Well, they can do anything.
So what are they doing here, though, I guess?
Here.
Yeah.
With this situation.
Yes.
Okay. So when he spoke about wanting to basically fill his brother's shoes, right? He said that he made a deal with the jinn entities that if he got into office due to the blowback his brother was receiving from everything that was happening in that film, The 5 Cities of June,
The 5 Cities of June,
right?
Yes.
Okay, which was, I think it was produced by the Heston Foundation, and it was narrated by Charlton Heston, and we talked about that in the previous episode with Jack. So basically, he wanted to kind of redeem his brother. And step in and say, if I get a chance to do this, I'm going to make it right.
Fill the void.
Fill the void, right? So the senators, the congressmen, the corporations that had a lot at stake during that time in those particular cities, those 5 cities, right? The Harbinger Seals Corporation. And, Bobby thought that he would be able to do a better job than his brother did. Not because he was better than him, but because he could fit in better.
See, that's interesting because as a Scorpio, that's the sign of shape-shifting.
And the jinn are shapeshifters.
Shapeshifters. Yes. So he understood them. He recognized them to a degree.
Exactly. And this makes perfect sense with his Scorpio energy and Scorpio being the sign of magic. Of course, he would be the one to delve in that realm, right?
Yes.
Even though the rest of the family, they heard rumors about this possibly being the reason why they experienced so much death in the family, this tied to these entities, or like there was a curse.
Yes.
But nobody really took it seriously. But Bobby was the one that actually, did the research and dug a little bit deeper into it and decided to work with them.
Yes.
Allegedly. Okay. I have to say that. I have to keep saying that.
According to what he told you.
According to what he's telling me,
Yes.
what the energy that I'm picking up on, this was the case, right? So he said that he would be able to fit in better with those people, or he at least knew how to operate in their circles and being able to do a sneak attack. See, Jack was very vocal.
Absolutely. Gemini is the chatterbox.
Yeah.
And Scorpio is the sneak attack. It's the scorpion. The scorpion sneaks up the back of your neck and stings you without you even feeling it until it's too late.
Yeah. And he always felt like, brother, shut your mouth. Go through the back door. Why are you telling them what you're going to do or what you want to experience?
Yes.
So this is why he felt that if he had the opportunity to get into office, that he would be able to make a difference, because he knew how to kind of slither in that crowd. So he ended up making this deal with the Jinn entities. And these particular entities happen to be attached to the family's bloodline. This is what I was shown, okay?
And did he know this? This wasn't just random.
No, this wasn't random at all.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't random at all. This was something that had been kind of a legend in the family. Everybody kind of heard about it.
And
but
so he tapped into it.
He tapped into it. Everybody else just was like, yeah, well, that's what the legend is, but we don't really know or believe or care to
investigate. Yeah,
exactly. So this particular relationship was formed many generations back. Okay. So the dad, him and Jack's father, was a Nazi sympathizer. Okay. And we know that the Nazis,
they
dealt with
black
the occult
magic
heavy. That is not a secret, right? So the Nazis, they dealt very heavily with occult practices and also using Jinn magic. And like I said, it was a family legend, but he was the only one that kind of dug deeper.
Sure.
And it was because of this that he felt like he might have caused his brother's demise.
Oh, so he did this before JFK's assassination.
He did it before, because he was saying, if I ever get a chance to be president.
So that's why he feels he's responsible, because he essentially made a deal with the Jinn. And they're like, okay, you want to be in charge? Well, then we will knock your brother out of the way and give you that opportunity.
Exactly.
Wow.
So this is why he feels that pressure over him, because he's like, oh, I made a deal with the devil, so to speak, right?
Yep.
But that's not, kind of, maybe, okay? But really, when we think about this, and I want everybody to remember this, is what you think is what is, okay? We create
your
realities, right?
Yes.
So if he felt like, oh, I made this deal with this Jinn, and this is the reason why my brother is dead, or this is the reason why all of our people keep dying in the family or whatever, then that will give energy to that experience, and you will continue to see evidence of that play out over and over and over and over again, even on the other side of the veil.
Yes.
Okay. So this is the energy that I'm picking up on with him. But this is the other thing. If Jack wasn't already prepared to leave, right?
Yes.
He had already set up in his subconscious mind that unconscious suicide, remember?
Made peace with what was going to happen.
So this is kind of like a crack in the foundation, leaving an opening there for the energy of that Jinn to say, oh, this is an easy way to make this happen. Here we go.
Yes.
There's an opening.
Yes.
Right?
Right.
So if he didn't have that opening, then it wouldn't have been able to have any kind of additional effect. You know what I mean? Not saying that the Jinn caused it. I'm just saying, when we're talking magic, okay, the only way someone can have an effect on your life is if there's already a crack in your own foundation.
Yes.
Okay. So let's just say, for example, Scott, you feel insecure about your feet.
Yeah.
Okay. I happen to know that you have an insecurity about your feet, right? So I could, without even sending a gin or anything, I could just say, oh, well, we know why you don't want to wear sandals.
Right.
Right. And that alone could create a wound. It could trigger.
Yes.
It can make you more afraid about wearing sandals and exposing your feet. That alone is a mind fuck.
Mm-hmm.
And because I'm fucking with your mind, I've now wormed my way into the crack of your foundation.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Totally.
Okay.
Yes.
So now I can utilize my words to affect you whichever way I want to.
Right.
That's how magic works.
Yes.
This is why it's very important to heal yourself. Healing is like the first line of protection and defense, and then to seal and protect yourself.
Well, good thing I actually really love my feet, and I always wear sandals, so.
Well, that's why I use feet for a reason.
Because you knew that they're protected.
Exactly.
They're energetically
I didn't
protected.
Pick out something else that might have been a crack in your foundation.
There you go.
So
Yes.
that is,
Thank
just
you,
want to
Shara.
explain that
You're a
to
true
everybody.
friend.
I just want to break that down because a lot of people, they think, oh, somebody put something on me, or
No, you left an opening.
You left an opening.
Yes.
So
They just hit. It's like the Achilles heel.
Absolutely. So he didn't purposely do something to his brother. That's not why he's created this self-imposed hell. It is simply because he thought that that's what happened.
Right.
That's how powerful the mind is.
Yes. Wow. Self-punishment.
Oh, absolutely.
So should we get to the day that it happened for him?
Yeah, let's talk about that. So when I asked him about the days leading up to his death, right? Now, he was saying that he was receiving threatening letters. And I asked him, I said, were there signs that you should have changed course, basically? Because we know from what we just talked about.
This is interesting because threatening letters. And was JFK receiving some threats as well? Okay.
He was.
So this, when you're talking about the crack in the armor and that sort of thing, crack in the foundation, sending letters, sending hate, sending fear to somebody is a way to energetically pick at that scab, so to speak.
It's a spell.
Like, yeah, you're hypnotizing the person. We're going to get you. We're going to get you. And then you start, they're going to get me. They're going to get me.
They start believing it. And once you believe it, you create
You become susceptible.
You become susceptible. And also what is within can be outpictured, you know, in the physical world. So again, I mean, I know it sounds kind of harsh to say it, but they kind of created these scenarios. Because in Bobby's case, because he received signs over and over and over again. That this was not the route for you. This is not the path.
Turn around, go back. Wrong way.
So many signs he received. And he did not
adhere to the signs. No.
And so he said that his pride would not let him turn around. Because again, that validation.
And this is just, again, like Jack's moon in Virgo. Have to be perfect, have to be better. Gotta keep going, gotta keep perfecting. Bobby's moon in Capricorn, gotta keep climbing. This is not good enough where I am. Gotta go further, higher. It's not in their emotional nature to stop. And turn around.
Nope, it's not at all. And that was basically his downfall.
Right. Now, did they do a cloaking? Was there a spell? I
didn't pick up on any spell work with him.
Interesting, because there's a lot of... I mean, that's a big conspiracy too.
It is.
With Robert Kennedy's death.
I didn't pick up on any cloaking with him specifically, but that does not mean that there wasn't some sort of blanket cloaking done when Jack was assassinated. Because we don't know how long his was being planned out.
They could have easily been tied together. Like, neither of these guys are going to be in charge.
Right.
So, brother number 2, he's fine until he's not fine.
Exactly.
And then when he's not fine, then we're going to make sure that that ends as well.
And this is the other thing. When you're doing magic like this, you tend to include the entire bloodline.
Right.
Anyone
Absolutely. Why wouldn't you?
that has the same goal or intention, we're going to put a stop to them.
Yes.
So that doesn't mean that it wasn't a blanketed spell or cloaking or work done.
Absolutely.
But I didn't see it
individually. Right.
You know?
Right.
But if it were me doing the work, I would make sure that if I know you have 3-4 brothers and sisters or whatever also gunning for that position, I know you guys are all on the same boat with your ideas, and I know what I want to have happen. Blanket. Anybody in the bloodline, even years down the line, even the children that come along, right?
Totally.
So, yeah.
Wow.
Yes, very, very interesting.
I mean, it makes me think, like, we should do JFK Jr.
Yeah. We
got to do that. We got to do that one.
Yeah, we should.
We got to look into that one.
And that's crazy you said that, because it flashed in my head when I just said
I'm like,
that. I just saw
we
him.
have to do that one.
Yeah. So for me, it could be that there's a mixture of like the mystery around whether or not there's a curse on the family or whatever. For me, it could be a mixture of the agreements that were made with the generations back. And basically what that agreement was, it was one of their, I don't know, like great grandfathers or something like that. I can't even remember. He was
an ancestor
in the military or fighting some war. This is what I saw. I think he was a general or something like that.
And this could have been hundreds of years back. This could have been
hundreds of years. This is generations back. So what I picked up on was that his troops were in trouble, and he was tapped into this energy, tapped into this, you know, the magic and the occult. And he called upon these particular energies, these entities, to assist him. And because most people think that when you call on a demon,
you got to give something up.
Sell your soul. You got to sell your whole, you know, your firstborn and all of this stuff and make all of these weird promises, right? This is what happened. Out of desperation, he made a promise. And so that's one theory that I have. It could be tied to that. And then the other one is that there was some opposition outside of the family that wanted to make sure that they didn't change certain things.
Or it could have been both.
It could have been both, because there's already that crack in the foundation, right? It's easy to worm your way in there and just, you know, wreak havoc.
Absolutely. Whew.
I know.
Wow.
I'm going to have to sage myself.
Oh, 100%. 100%.
Take a clearing bath tonight.
So I'm just looking from an astrological perspective on that day, on June 6, 1968, which was, he died that morning. So Saturn, the planet of restriction, was moving into close alignment with Chiron, the wound. So there was something returning there, some sort of returning to the wound, wound of the self-confidence. I mean, he died in a crowded kitchen. In Los Angeles. And they think there was multiple gunmen, but that's not the official story. Neptune, the planet of illusion, was in Scorpio, the sign of secrets. So I see some magic there, potentially. Uranus, the planet of the unexpected, was moving through his 6th house, which is the house that represents the daily life, an unexpected change there. It was also in alignment with Jupiter, expansion, a large unexpected occurrence, and in alignment with his moon, the emotions, and his identity. So Jack also had Uranus in alignment with his identity. So an unexpected change to the identity. That's kind of the big one for me. And then Pluto, the planet of transformation, was nearby Uranus, moving through the 6th house, which is a transformation of the daily life, in alignment with Jupiter, expansion. So an expanded transformation to the daily life. And Jupiter was in the 10th house, in Bobby's astrological code. So that's a transformation to the daily life and a transformation to the career, the sense of achievement.
Wow.
Jupiter was in stressful alignment with the sun. So feeling optimistic, but overly optimistic. And it's very ironic because he was assassinated right after he had won California.
Exactly.
It was clear he was going to be the Democratic nomination.
Yeah.
He was charged up. He gave this, this inspiring quick speech, but, getting everybody riled up, ready to rally. We're going to do this. And then off into the kitchen from that high point of optimism to death.
Transition.
Yeah.
Talk about a major transition in your daily life, right?
Yes. Well, that one was in Leo, which was moving through his 5th house, which is the house of being the center of attention. It's the house of children. So being center stage and everybody looking at you. But it was in a stressful alignment with his identity, which is in Scorpio. Leo and Scorpio clash.
Yeah.
Fixed fire, fixed water. Both fixed, strong alignment, but fire boils water, water extinguishes fire. So Jupiter's expansion, so whenever the planet of expansion squares the sun, that means that there can be a high point of optimism, but the reality does not fit what you hope to see or what you think you're going to see.
Wow. Do you think that if he knew this about his chart, he would have made a different decision?
Well, I mean, that's a funny question that people ask me so often about anything, and it just all depends. Like, there was a lot of signs already.
Well, yeah.
There were a lot of signs already, but he's still going forward. Maybe would have said, okay, it's astrology. Haha, sure. Whatever, and brush it aside, because he was brushing a lot of other signs aside, so.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't think that his communication with the jinn I don't think it was as clear. Like I don't think that there was like a relationship formed.
Right.
Because if it was, he might have been able to hear what they were saying to him,
And they were trying to tell him, okay, we'll do this if you want to, but you're probably not going to like what you get from this.
Yeah. They can be of great assistance, but you have to form a relationship and you have to be open to the communication and hear and listen to what's being said, weigh the options and make a decision, based on your own will, whether you want to listen or whether you want to keep pushing.
Yep.
Keep pushing and keep pushing.
Right.
And they're like, okay.
Yes. Now I want to bring up, because I know you continue with your conversations. Have you been helping? Yes.
So a good thing happened after me kind of helping him along the way a little bit, because I really wanted to help move him out of that low, dark place.
Yes.
So he did come back, and this time he was a lot lighter.
Okay.
And he actually faced me this time when he was talking to me. And he said that he's starting to feel better mentally.
Good.
And that he just got tired of being in the darkness. And when I told him that he could choose different, he did. Good. Which is great. I love to hear that, even when my alive human clients. So I'm like, yay, you have a choice, But he's still healing. He's still healing.
Yes.
It's going to take a little bit of time. So,
yes.
But he was lighter. He was talking. All the darkness wasn't around him anymore. I could feel and tell that he was stepping into like the next phase. Haven't talked to him in a while, but when I did just check back in on him, just to see
he was moving in the right direction.
He was moving in the right direction, which is great.
Yeah.
Which is great. I'm happy to hear that. So that made me feel way better.
Absolutely.
Because, hopefully that lightens everybody up too.
Yes, totally. Well, thank you, Shara.
Yes, thank you, Scott.
Yes,
I always
welcome.
Learn so much when we do this. I always
Same
learn
here.
so much.
Same here. It's always it's fun. I'm enjoying this, even in the darkness. So
even in the darkness, right?
Yes.
The darkness is fun. I love the darkness.
Absolutely. And I want to thank Bobby as well. I want to thank RFK for his openness with you and for for his contribution as a human being on this planet.
I'm honored that they talked to me.
Absolutely.
They can choose not to.
Yeah, totally.
So I'm grateful. I think because I bring a little bit of healing light to the party. They're like,
absolutely. It's that compassionate Pisces moon.
Yeah.
And I'm sure, just knowing where your moon is in strong alignment with Bobby's sun and moon. And his north node. Mm-hmm. So, there's a familiarity to you for him to appreciate.
Yeah, that's great. I had no idea.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, I do.
I know you do. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I always learn so much. Like, you helped me understand my north node. I'd always heard people say north node, but I didn't know what the hell that meant. I was like, okay, my north node's in Virgo. Great. But when you broke it down for me, that's the head of the dragon. Like, that's where I need to be heading to in order to realize the goals and the things that I have, envisioned for myself.
Yes.
I was like, okay. So I did a hypnosis for myself. Like, I wrote a hypnosis around that.
Wow.
And it has really, really shifted a lot for me. So
thank you. You're welcome. You're welcome. It's an honor.
Awesome.
All right. Until next time, Shara, I'm very excited.
Yes.
And
me too.
I will see you then on our next episode.
You guys make sure to join us again.
Join us again. Yes. You've been listening to The Uncharted Territories, where we see the unseen in the world of matter. If you would like to support the podcast, subscribe.
We've talked a lot about the subconscious mind and the importance of healing our wounds from the past. As an energy healer and a certified hypnotherapist, I help people understand how the mind works so they can harness the energy of the subconscious and tap into their inner power and make those positive long-term changes in their lives. If you're ready to make that change, you can book a session with me by connecting at opendoorhypnosis.com. I look forward to working with you.
If you'd like to learn more about who you are, where you come from, why you're here, and what you're meant to do with your life, contact me, Scott Tajarian, at theweeklytransit.com, and we will take a close, detailed look at your astrological code. My purpose is to help you understand who you are so you can accept, appreciate, and love the divine unique miracle that is you.